Hey guys, so I am excited to just revamp this page. I created this page a very long time ago, and I think I created it because I was going through a storm in my life, and I just needed to let truth have light on it of an experience I was dealing with. And I'm sure that if you scroll down in the post, you're going to see that, you know, you're going to see what I had to deal with. And right now, I'm at a point in my life, thank God, literally, thank God, that He has lifted me up and completely saved my life. And when I say saved my life, I mean He literally saved my heart and saved my mindset and has given me a gift of discernment and to be able to see things from a different perspective. And, obviously, we're living in a world right now where it's changed a lot since I, really got active on this page. So many things have gone on, so many things have happened, and it just makes perfect sense right now to just uplift this page and connect with other people. Obviously, we are living in a world where everybody is labeling everything, and everybody wants their truth to be, heard. And, everybody's got a truth, right? So you have a truth, I have a truth, and there's that in between. And I believe no matter what, at the end of the day, it's always going to be God's truth. And you don't have to believe in God if you don't want to. That's your choice. That is a free will choice that is totally up to you. And I don't like to push anything on anybody, but I could tell you one thing, that nobody is ever going to tell me that I shouldn't believe in God and that I shouldn't express my faith openly and my walk and my growth in my faith. And I refuse to let anybody tell me that I can't do that. And I will do that everywhere I walk in my life, because I have seen how God works. I have seen how my life has changed so much, how I went from being so, emotional and angry and bitter and frustrated. And I felt a hate within my heart that stemmed from something that literally broke me. And I have shared that story so many times through documentaries and stuff. And I was actually, basically blackmailed. So I've seen how the system works. I see how broken it is. And I have spoken up many times about the truths of that, and whether people want to believe it or not, it's totally up to you. But this page really was about just talking about things that everybody fears to talk about. People don't want to upset anyone. They don't want to, speak up about certain subjects because they're afraid they're going to offend someone, or they have a loyalty to, a certain person, a business, or a political party. And, I didn't just, become this person just overnight. This is something that I have grown to become. And I had to learn a lot along the way. So I just want to get on and just talk to you about why this page exists, and also why I am uplifting this page with something brand new, and it's called It's Time to Turn. I just messed all that up. So, as you can see, nothing is perfect. So anyway, I'm going to keep on going. Paint the roses red. Why did that come to me? Well, I have to tell you, I just went through an experience just recently that, also was another experience to teach me, to, open my eyes to things that like I was so fooled to even not see. And now that I'm looking back and I'm looking back at all the steps that I have went through, over these past years and this past year, and, I'm like, no matter what, you could be going through anything, but you're gaining so much. We are so down on ourselves, and we gain so much in life if we just embrace, the difficult times, if we just embrace that sometimes we're not always right, and that, it's okay to talk to other people. It's okay to get other people's opinions on things, as long as you're not hurting someone. And I feel like no matter what, we're emotional beings, and we're always going to feel a certain way sometimes, depending on the situation or whatever it is that we're going through. And, whether or not you say things the right way, or you do things the right way, or you do it the wrong way, there's always something to gain from that. And if you can do that, you've tackled a lot. So just because you're going through something doesn't mean that it's the end of the world, or that, it's not meant to continuously drag you down. Whatever situation that you're going through is meant to help lift you up out of that place that you're in. And so paint the roses red. Why did I say, let's paint the roses red? Because so many people want to paint the roses red, okay? And again, we know that saying comes from Alice in Wonderland. And there's so many twists and turns, and so many deceitful things going on in there, and so many, parts of that movie where there is people pleasing going on, and, fear and emotions, and it's full of so many things. And honestly, it was always one of my favorite movies to watch. So, it came to me yesterday, I don't know, or actually last night really came to me, and I thought to myself, wow, let's paint the roses red. And it's a reverse psychology thing, because again, people want to paint the roses red, but the truth of the matter is, no matter how much you try to cover something up, it's always going to be God's truth. That truth is always going to be there. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, that is self-loathing, or that is, done to be manipulative towards someone or towards something. No matter what you do, you're never going to actually change the truth. And again, your truth and my truth could be totally two different things. It depends on the experiences you've gone through, what you've dealt with in life, how you handled it, what you look back on, and the fact that you can say, I really wasn't right in that situation, or, I'm really sorry, and how you can, be emotionally involved in a certain situation and be okay with being wrong. But we're living in a world, in a society today, that people want to paint the roses red. Well, listen, you can try to paint the roses red to cover up the truth, to cover up the reality of a situation or something. But you can do that because you want to lie, because it's whatever it is, changing it, it's going to please other people. And it's like painting a facade on someone's life, making it seem like something it's not. But the reality is, even if you paint the roses red, you can wash away the sin, right? So that sin can be completely washed away, and what is left is the reality of the truth. And again, your truth and my truth, you know what? It really depends on who you're led by. It depends on where your heart and your mindset are, because those two things should be connected. They should not be separate. Because yes, while people have a good heart, their mindset is not always right? Because they love and they feel and they want certain things, but their mindset is, well, if I do that, then this person's not going to like me. This person's going to have something to say. I'm not going to be of value in certain places and to certain people. And we start to think all of these things instead of saying, no, the value is in the truth. And you're supposed to accept the truth. But we all know that accepting the truth is one of the hardest things to do, because we don't want to feel hurt. We don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to experience those things because it can be painful. And when people point things out, sometimes people are pointing things out because they want you to get a different perspective. Not so much that what you're thinking and how you're feeling, is, within your heart is wrong, but maybe just stepping outside of the box a little bit and realizing that, sometimes what you're thinking when you're feeling is not always the right thing. So, and again, it can be a scary place, and you feel vulnerable because if someone comes at you with something that you don't agree with, or that you think you didn't do, or you think that you didn't say, that, owning that is painful because it gets you to be uncomfortable and feel vulnerable, and you start to think that you're being attacked, and then you start thinking all of these different things. And the reality is, if you don't tackle the reality of what's happening and the truth, nothing ever changes. So people paint the roses red. So that way, it's catering to a certain agenda, a certain political thing. It's a part of labeling. And it's something that I always battle with. So I can be vulnerable, I can totally be uncomfortable, and I can totally be okay with being wrong. And I can be okay with saying sorry, and I can be okay with forgiving, because I've had to do a lot of those things throughout my life. And by being vulnerable and being uncomfortable, it literally has changed my life. It has made me into a better person, an understanding person, and, a less judgmental person. And that's because I allowed myself to feel uncomfortable, to feel vulnerable, to feel that emotion that it's okay. It's okay, because you might do something wrong, but you can always change it. You can always fix it, So like I said, it's time to paint the roses red. It's a reverse psychology term. In why I'm saying that is, no matter what, the truth is always going to remain. And so while you're painting this story and you're painting this facade, and this goes for anyone, including myself in our life, and we're all a part of it. We're all doing things and saying things and going through things at different times. So, I might be going through something similar to you right now that you went through 10 years ago. And so connecting with those people who were going through what you're going through now is a good thing. But so many people refuse to be okay with that because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. they don't want people to know their truth. They don't want people to know like that they were wrong in the situation, or even to get advice, or have someone say, hey, let's just think outside the box here and think about, what's really going on, and helping yourself is accepting the truth. And only you know what is right and wrong. And that's another thing. There's a fine line between right and wrong. Okay? And we all know that fine line, because there's a part of us that tells us to, no, don't say that, or no, don't do that, or no, don't engage, or don't talk to this person and don't get involved with that person. But there's that other side that's like, but if I do, they're going to help me. If I do, this is going to happen. And sometimes we get into that, in between. So you do know, you feel it within your heart, because God gave that to you. God gave us all that discernment where we kind of know right from wrong, unless you're dealing with mental challenges, and other difficult things that are, challenging you in your life, and you just don't know how to reason, So like, for instance, for me, I ran for mayor. Who would have thought 10 years ago that I would have actually got myself so completely uncomfortable and ran for a political office? Let me tell you something. That was one of the most, besides other things, one of the most challenging things that I have ever had to do. And, considering the time frame, how it happened, what was going on, there was a lot of things going on in my life when I ran for mayor. My son just went and, signed up for the Army. And so he was on his journey and going through basic training. And that was another thing that we had to carry as a family and go through as a family. So on top of that, I decided to run for mayor. And I also moved. I'm also a small business owner, and I moved my store location again in that same year. And, there were so many different things, and then you got all the other little aspects of life happening, so it was a challenging year. But I have to tell you, like, you're probably wondering, did you win? Well, if you are not here in Stafford, then you would know. But no, I did not win. But I did win, because in so many other ways, I gained so many, I learned so many different lessons and perspectives. And I got to know, like, people that I thought I knew, that, you'll go through life and you'll realize that, you don't always know someone. Even though you know them, you don't really know them, especially until you get involved in politics. But anyway, so I also, was going through a transition too, about faith over fear. So actually, I have that. It was probably about a good 2 years that, I was kind of going through this transition, which is what led me into running for mayor. And I went through this faith over fear thing where, like, I needed to put aside my fear and have faith that God was going to guide me, where I needed to be in my life. And, if I didn't win, then maybe I wasn't meant to win at that point in time, because there were other lessons and things to gain from that experience. So I had to go through that in order to learn so much about myself too. There's so much, like, you learn a lot about who you are, you learn a lot about who other people are, you learn a lot. So again, I might not have won that time, but there's always another time. And I also won in so many other great ways. So I never took it as a loss. I, Yeah, it's disappointing. So there's an emotion that you're feeling. It was disappointing because I had so many great things that I wanted to do here in my town, and so many perspectives that I wanted to like touch on and involve the community, and so many great things that I just wanted to do here. And you know what? Although I was disappointed that I couldn't move forward with that, but that doesn't mean that I can't move forward in the future, with that. So I had to come to terms. So there was a lot of that back and forth. Um, so, life, as you see in one of the pictures, it's life, and life is crinkly and crumbly, and sometimes it's messy, and sometimes there's so many different things that we're all going through, and everybody's going through it at different times. So for me, when I ran for mayor, I did run independently, although I am a Republican, and I did go against the Republicans here because, again, faith over fear. I didn't agree with what was going on. I didn't like what I had seen, and why would I paint the roses red? So now I'm just reverting it back, right? So why would I paint the roses red? Because that's what everybody else wanted. I wasn't going to do that because that's not who I am. I don't do what everybody else does. I don't do what everybody tells me to do. I'm going to go to God. Like I said, you can believe in God or you don't have to believe in God. It's totally up to you what you want to do. But just know this, that nobody is going to control me. Okay? And that's one thing in my entire life. I have watched how people that I loved and I trusted controlled a situation, and I felt helpless, and I felt like I had no control. I felt like helpless, hopeless. I felt so many different things, and I was so hurt. Do you think that I ever want anyone to ever feel that or experience that? No, but I do know that we all have to have our own experiences, and we do have to go through our own journey. But that doesn't mean that I have to fall victim ever again. That doesn't mean that I have to do what everybody else is doing, because everybody is going to go through their own transitions in life and their own experiences and their own, moments that they're learning, and that's their time to go through that. And I am very independent. I am very strong-willed, and it takes a lot to break me, put it that way. So I've already been broken once, and I refuse to be broken again. And just recently, I did feel a hurt again, kind of similar to, the hurt that I was broken the first time. And, it's just taken me a little bit of time to pull myself out of it again. And here I am. And now I'm expressing all this stuff. So God has a plan. And I don't know. I don't know the plan. I don't know the plan that God's going to have for me. I don't know the obstacles that I'm going to have to face and the things that I'm going to have to go through, in my business, in my family, in my private life, in my friendships and people I don't know, and just in the community. I don't know. We don't know what God has planned for us. But I do know, and I do trust God, and I know that wherever He is carrying me in my life, it's going to be good in the end. Might not be so good, when you're going through it, because there's so much you have to learn, but there is so much love and so many things to gain. And when I say love, it's really all about love. And again, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. So why are we painting the roses red? Well, back to that, reverse psychology type of thing. Let's paint the roses red. Well, I would like to get into discussion. So, enough about all of that. I am opening this page up to get into discussion about things that are uncomfortable, about things that people are afraid to talk about because they have a loyalty, whether it's to a political figure, a political party, or whether you are loyal to certain people and businesses and places and things. You know, I want to break that and say, no, let's literally get out of that system. It's a broken system. And again, life is made up of so many different systems, and the decision is really ours, and how we choose to walk through life, and how we choose to carry each situation and handle it. So I refuse to agree with people that refuse to own who they are. I'm not going to do it, and I think that it's okay to be vulnerable, and I'm sure I'm going to get vulnerable many more times after this. I'm sure that I'm going to go through many more storms. I'm sure that I'm going to go through many more ups and downs, because life is going to be full of them. That's a part of it. We're living in a world where, again, so many people want to paint the roses red. And no matter what, that truth is always going to be there. And we have to bring that to the light. We have to talk about the things that, so funny because this thing just put Truth Social, just popped up. So pretty interesting. I get a lot of confirmation from the Lord. And again, nobody's going to tell me, oh, you're crazy. I don't really care what other people think of me. I don't, okay? If I did, I definitely wouldn't have been able to run for mayor. I don't care what anybody has to say about me. I'll never ever portray myself to be perfect, or say all the perfect right things or do all the right things, because I know that life just can't be perfect, because in order to be better, you have to go through, different things in life, and you have to learn from them. So regardless, we're all going to go through it. And again, there should be no loyalty. There should be no labeling. There should be none of those things. I think we should all be able to lift each other up, talk about the things that are going on in each other's lives, because again, people want to paint the roses red, make their life look as if there's nothing wrong, it's so perfect. And to be honest, that doesn't help anybody. That never will help anybody. And the object of life is to lift people up and to help people and to expose the things that need to be exposed, so that it gets people to think outside the box, even though they may not agree with it at first. Be open to listening to different people, to different perspectives and ideas that people have. And even at the end, if you still don't agree with it, I'm sure that eventually somewhere along in your life, it's going to resonate with you, and you're going to hear, and you're going to be like, wow, I remember that like months ago, so-and-so said this, or I remember like years ago that, so-and-so had this conversation, and, wow, like it's resonating with me now. So that's how God works. So like I said, everything's in God's timing. It's his plan. It might not resonate with you now. This is why we have to talk about things. This is why we have to express the reality of life, because nothing's perfect. Everybody's sinning every day, and everybody wants to paint the roses red because they want to cover it all up to make themselves look like something that they're not. And that's not going to help anything. It's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help anything. And that's why the world is headed in the direction that it's heading in right now, because nobody wants to get uncomfortable. Nobody. If you did something wrong, own it. If you got involved with the wrong people or you did something to hurt somebody, own it. Own it. Because the more that you don't own it, the further and further of a rabbit hole, that you're digging yourself in. So, and you're just going to spiral out of control, and it's never going to get better for you. And you can keep on painting the roses red and keep on painting them and keep on painting them. But guess what? It's going to wash away. The truth eventually comes out. It gets exposed because there are God-led people, whether you want to believe it or not, who are exposing all of these things. And they're taking their testimonies and they're using them. Instead of being bitter about it and angry about it and being hateful about it, they're taking testimonies and things that they have gone through in their life and they're using them as direction. They're using them to bring light to the world that is so blinded. So that's what this is about. And again, share your story, talk about your truths, because I can tell you right now that there are so many people who need to feel like they're being heard. And just because you're expressing something and it's very vulnerable to you and very uncomfortable to you, don't think you're wrong in doing that, because you don't know how many people that you're actually helping by doing that. And that's where we're supposed to be coming together. That's what God wants. He wants us to take our testimonies, the ups and the downs, and he wants us to utilize them. And granted, while social media and everything is such a terrible thing, because it's being used in all the wrong ways, like God says, he will take something and he will always make good of it. So we have to do that. We have to follow his lead, and we have to make good of these social media platforms. We have to bring things to the light. And that's what I do see a lot of that happening. That is happening. So I give a lot of credit to people who are standing up, who are not afraid to talk about things. And, you may be going through an experience, because like I said, I just went through something and I expressed myself with what I saw, and I got myself very vulnerable doing that. I got myself vulnerable, but to be honest, I don't really care what anyone thinks or what they have to say. If you can't own your truth, and I'm seeing something and it's affecting me in a way that I could see right through the BS, I'm going to talk about it. Because if it's going to affect other people, we need to talk about it, because that needs to change. Things need to change. The only way that things are going to change is if we talk about the things that we don't want to talk about. Things that we don't want to think about, because it's too uncomfortable. So time to get uncomfortable and be okay with being uncomfortable. So if you want to do videos on here, you want to share your story, because this is really about, exposing those different elements in life. And again, nobody holds anybody at fault for doing the wrong thing unless it is hurting someone, unless it's affecting someone. And you have to expose that, because if you don't, nothing changes. And like I said, again, what I just went through, I literally was hurting myself from someone else hurting me. And I was hurting myself because I was beating myself up over it, until I got clarification, which I needed, that I wasn't alone, and that, it's a pattern and it needs to change. And the only way to change anything is to talk about it. And granted, it might not be comfortable to talk about it. It might not be comfortable to expose certain things because you're fearing of what everybody's going to think of you and what everybody's going to say. But you know what? That's one thing I've already tackled. If it's not right and it's hurting others, if you want to hurt yourself and you want to do things to yourself, that's one thing. But when you want to hurt other people and you do things to hurt people and you have no regard to it, you have no remorse, you have no emotion about it, and you can't own what it is that you're doing, then you deserve to be exposed. And while it might be very hard for you, for anyone to expose something that you've done, it might be hard to accept that. But the reality is, if it keeps getting painted red, gets covered up over and over and over again, then the patterns never change, things don't change, and we can't become better. We can't become better. And that's what's going on in this world right now. It's not getting better. I don't know what delusional world people are living in right now, but it's not getting better. We are trying to make it better in our own personal lives, and we're working and we're keeping ourselves busy and we're doing things with our kids and we're just going about our lives, and that's how we're working through it. But it's not actually getting better. It's getting worse because people are getting shut down because they're expressing how they feel, and it's not okay. It's not okay. And the more that people fight back with the people that are exposing it, just literally, it's common sense, is showing that obviously something's wrong. Obviously they're doing something wrong if you're exposing something and they're fighting back. That means you're doing something right. You ever hear that expression? You're doing something right if they're getting mad that you're talking about it. So keep talking about it. Keep letting the truth shine through. Keep letting, the light shine through. Let it shine. Let who you are become better. Again, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. I have a truth. You have a truth. But in the end, again, it's only God's truth. He sees all things before they even happen. He knows what's going to happen. He knows how it's going to go down. He hears when you cry. He hears when you pray. He hears everything you're saying. And although he might not give you that answer when you say you need it, you might have to go through something before he actually, really, in the midst of it, he's giving you what you need. And it might not click until later. That wow, I had to go through that. And the one thing that broke me, one of the major things in my life that broke me and brought me to know God, I know now, that being alienated from my older son, and I can thank that situation, going through that situation, because it brought me to a place of healing and peace and has given me a new life to know God. So that thing, and I get emotional talking about it, that thing that broke me gave me something so much that nobody else in this entire world could give me. Nobody. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much fame and fortune, and no matter who you are, nobody in this entire world could have given me what God has given me. And I had to be completely broken in order to receive that. So, you follow me? Sometimes you got to be completely broken in order to really grow and become better. So, Have a wonderful, blessed day, and I hope you continue to follow this page and follow the people who are expressing, you know, their testimonies and the things that they're going through, because you never know who's going to be able to help you and who's going to lift you up. So don't push people away just yet, because you never know. You really never know. I mean, unless they're hurting you, unless you see something in them, and man, do we have to pray, but man, do we also have to expose the truth and expose the things that we're going through, because you can't help anybody by just sitting silent. Okay? Nothing will ever change or get better if we're silent. And, you know, granted, there's a lot of people out there that are not silent that absolutely make no sense. So this is where I'm saying, you got to know where you're led. Your heart and your mindset have to be right. You got to know who's leading you. I don't want anyone in this entire world leading me, to be honest with you. I don't, because I've seen how the people that I absolutely trusted and loved and adored and, just felt so many different things for, just completely didn't care. Completely just didn't care. And those were people who are really close to, who I was really close to. So, I don't want to be led by anybody else. I want to be led by God, because he was the only one that ever could lift me up the way he did. And so that's why I will never, ever turn my back on him. And granted, he knows I am not perfect. I sometimes say things, I do things, I am human. He knows that I am human. I have battled with that back and forth. He just needs me to trust him, and he needs me to lean on him, and he needs me to know that no matter what, I am his and he is mine, and he is yours. So, have a blessed day, guys. Bye.